Two fighter jets are racing to see which one can reach their tower first. Before they begin their contest, the Dusty surprises fighter jets, an agricultural planes, who challenges them to try to beat him with a large good thing. Despite this, Dusty quickly goes quite fast, and just in a few seconds, he passes the fighter jets, using his thrusters. At that point, the lead better wakes up the plane, his co-worker, who says that his pal needs to stop pretending to be a special aircraft. Bored, Dusty explains that he feels no enthusiasm for accomplishing those spraying jobs. And upon hearing this, the ancient plane says that their lives are really comfy and soothing. At the end of the conversation, the aircraft says goodbye to lead bottom and leaves to find his friend Chug, who helps him train for the big race. However, during the events, Dusty ended up destroying some of his components and receives Doy's help to restore them. Realizing that the harm was caused by high-speed training, the mechanic grows upset and accuses him of returning to his dangerous racing. At that moment, Chug appears and begins to praise his friend's performance that day. Hearing all this, Doy becomes even more furious and explains all the difficulties he could face if he continues to participate in such perilous races. So, Dusty invites his pal to go with them to the competition qualifiers so they can make sure he stays in one piece. At dusk, Chug and Dusty watch the race programs in their shed and try to find a means to boost their talents even further. To do this, the vehicle says they could ask Skipper, a former Navy flight teacher, for help. Although he doesn't like the idea very much, the crop duster takes off to meet him with his pal. Dusty then rings the doorbell and Chug hastily flees to hide. Soon later, the rookie is greeted by the big aircraft and proceeds to ask him to be his coach. After listening to the plane's whole statement, Skipper says he doesn't want to engage in any of it. She declares that Dusty will end up crashes if he tries to continue participate in those competitions. Despite failing to convince the veteran, Dusty leaves for the race qualifiers the next day along with Chug and Doy. While everyone watches the sights and old aircraft brought to the competition, the presenter narrates the illustrious apparition of Rip Slinger, one of the greatest competitors who ever lived. With that, all contestants meet on the runway and the presenter explains that the 5 best contestants will be picked to qualify for the world's largest airplane race. The qualifications finally commence and some of the planes perform properly while others crash during the race. When it's Dusty's time, the newbie becomes the focus of jokes and humiliation from the other competitors who claim that he will never be able to attain their level. Despite this, the aircraft does not give up on its aim. It begins its separate race where it manages to achieve a startling speed and overcome any barriers with ease. However, as soon as he passes the finish line, Dusty discovers that he has ended up in 6th place, and because of this, he will not be selected to participate in the next competition. Trying to cheer him up, one of the competitors approaches the group and says that his performance was impressive. After hearing that remark, Dusty becomes serious and returns to the field to continue his spraying without even imagining that he is being monitored by Skipper, who is sorry to observe the plane's discouragement. The next day, the competition narrator visits the gang, and after meeting with the competitor, he reveals that race officials detected an illegal material that belonged to the engine of the plane that came in 5th place. Therefore, having coming in 6th place, Dusty is selected as the next participant in the following stage of the race. And upon hearing this, Chug shouts to break the news to everyone. In addition, the presenter certifies the rookie competitor's title, who states that his code name will be none other than Strut Jetstream. Minutes later, the plane receives a visit from Skipper, who says that participation in that competition will be a terrible concept, as he could end up becoming eliminated in a terrible accident. Angry, Dusty confesses that he no longer desires to spend his life as a crop duster and that he wants to prove that he is capable of achieving more in his life. Upon hearing this, Skipper adjusts his thoughts and orders the jet to meet him the next morning so they can continue training. With that, Dusty begins his training with his flight instructor, and after warming up with some basic tactics, he orders the rookie to accelerate up to cloud level. However, as soon as he does so, the plane panics and decides to return to solid ground. Confused, Skipper queries what his apprentice is doing, and when they meet on the runway, Dusty discloses that he is terribly terrified of heights as he has never flown above 300 meters. After this revelation, the instructor is horrified and considers giving up on teaching him, but the talk is interrupted by Sparky, the veteran's mechanic. He reports that numerous planes that had the same concern as Dusty ended up overcoming it over time and became great rivals throughout their lives. Therefore, Skipper decides to continue with the training and adds that for now they will work at his apprentice's speed so that only subsequently will they move on to greater heights. Hours later, the teacher prepares a route across the location where Dusty competes alongside another aircraft hired by the veteran. As time passes, the apprentice repeats that same path path many of times while Doi makes some tweaks to his engines to increase his aerodynamics and speed. Thanks to his instructor's instruction, the aircraft develops substantial experience in fast flight, and after several attempts, he eventually manages to vanquish his opponent. Now that his apprentice is ready, Skipper surprises him with a tailored spray can that belonged to his main squadron. Finally, the lecturer states that when the race starts, the large numerous planes going off will generate a type of vortex and asks Dusty to be careful. In addition, Skipper says he will converse with his apprentice by radio because even though he cannot leave his hangar, he will be his co-pilot remotely. So, Dusty flies to the competition place where he meets the presenter who invited him to become a competitor. Soon later, the plane encounters Ashley, one of the finest known champions, who claims she is delighted to compete alongside a new participant. After that, Dusty starts talking to Ripslinger, and during the conversation, the competitors encounter Mr. Chu, an excellent Mexican champion. With all the participants present, the broadcast of the race dubbed Wings Around the Globe begins, and host Brent and his partner Colin describe all the stages that will happen during the competition. At the same moment, Chug and the other members of Dusty's group watch their friend go to the starting line where thousands of eager fans await. As they take their spots on the track, Mr. Chu falls in love with one of the competitors, and Dusty says that she is Carolina, the champion of the Brazilian aircraft rally. Soon after, the judge orders all competitors to start their engine, and with everything ready, the race begins. Quickly, all the planes lift off, and Dusty struggles to withstand the turbulence created by the competitors. At the same time, the narrators narrate the route, which consisting of an uninterrupted journey across the North Atlantic, where the victor will be permitted to start in first place in the next day's race. Within a few minutes of the race, Dusty falls back, and since he is flying below the clouds, he is gravely afflicted by the ice, which causes him to lose even increased speed. Later, the competitors assemble in a shed to shelter from the snowstorm, and while talking to his apprentice on the radio, Skipper says that the next day's itinerary will be on a field packed of difficulties. This will allow Dusty to earn some positions on the scoreboard, since even though he is not as fast as his opponents, he possesses outstanding ability to evade obstacles. After the break, the competitors return to the race, and along the journey, Bulldog terminates up with one of his turbines damaged, and the short circuit causes his vision to be compromised. Concerned, the commentators ask the support helicopter to report on what is happening, and it reveals that the person is about to crash as he is losing altitude uncontrollably. However, before the airplane crashes, Dusty flies towards his opponent and begins to coach him so that he can retake control. Thanks to this, Bulldog manages to evade all barriers in the vicinity, even managing to soar between the towers of a large castle. Soon later, Dusty accompanies the plane to the finish line runway, allowing the competitor to accomplish the course safely. The emergency squad soon runs to help Bulldog, and when he regains his vision, he is angry to find that the youngster has came in last just to rescue him. Trying to calm him down, Dusty says he would never allow a plane to be eliminated during the competition, and Bulldog, moved by having been saved, thanks him. At that moment, Ripslinger approaches the rookie and informs him that decent individuals like him end up in last place in races, and the comment angers the airplane. Later, Dusty talks to Mr. Chu about coming in last, and within seconds, they flee into France. The automobile, who professes to be a great fan of Dusty as the plane represents all aircraft that are not favorably appreciated by the globe. Confused, the crop duster wonders what he is talking about, and the automobile answers that he is member of a particularly unusual sort of flying automobile that can change into a full aircraft. After introducing himself, France questions why Dusty continues to use his sprayer, since he would be considerably faster and lighter if he no longer had this mechanism in his structure. Upon hearing this, Mr. Chu agrees with the little vehicle, and realizing that he could make a great difference in his performance with this chain, the plane heads to the hangar to remove its sprayer. As soon as the operation is performed, Dusty flies off immensely excited as he feels that from now on he will have all the speed he needs to win. The next day, the next leg, when the race begins and the competitors head to a location full of hills where they will have to fly below 300 m and evade obstacles. Now that the race has taken a turn closer to his specialization, Dusty manages to ascend the leaderboard, ending in 8th place at the end of the race. Thanks to the rural plane's tremendous feat, media rush to interview him, and he claims he owes all his success to Skipper, his flight instructor. During the interview, Ripsinger and his 2 assistants watch the airplane from afar, and the champion proclaims that he will not let the rookie to take his spot on the podium. While watching his friend's statement, Skipper gets serious and later decides to travel for the runway so he can try to take off after so many years without flying. Excited, Sparky approaches to see the attempt, but the veteran's engine fails, causing him to give up. Despite this, The mechanic tries to console him, claiming that they can try to fix his engine and make new attempts another day. In the morning, Dusty contacts his group so they may discuss about the next stage of the race, which will take place in the middle of the enormous Himalayan mountain. Upon hearing this, the plane asks if he could fly between the mountains rather than over them, but Skipper says that this is a poor concept and claims that it is time for his apprentice to achieve high altitude. At the end of the chat, the plane encounters Mr. Chu, who is attempting to win Carolina's heart, but the aircraft exhibits no interest in him, leaving the Mexican competitor devastated. While trying to soothe him, Dusty is stunned by Ashani, who compliments his colleague's performance in the most recent stage of the race. In addition, the aircraft invites his friend for a trip, and together the contestants cross the location while discussing about the next segment of the race. During the conversation, Ashani claims she knows concerning Dusty's tendency of flying at low elevations and explains that he can use the train tracks to span the region, as this will provide him with a safe route to follow during the adventure. The next day, the planes took off on their trip through the Himalayan highlands, and as his opponents fly at high altitudes, Dusty follows the tracks. However, within seconds, the competitor detects that the route is blocked by one of the mountains and decides to obtain altitude so as not to waste time. The problem is that his fear of heights forbids him from doing so, and refusing to give up, Dusty risks crossing the passage, causing his wings to scrape against the walls a few times. Before he can get out, the plane notices that an enormous train is approaching, and while the car tries to brake, the competitor accelerates as much as possible, managing to escape at the last second. Upon reaching the summit of one of the mountains, Dusty realizes that he has managed to finish the race in first place. Sometime afterward, the other planes complete the course and media hurry to question the rural plane after such a great performance. While answering questions, Dusty spots Ashani trying to sneak out of the place and decides to call her back. Noticing that the airplane has the same propeller as Ripslinger's group, the rural plane gets irate and claims he shouldn't have trusted her. Trying to explain herself, Ashani acknowledges that she believed Dusty would turn back, but this simply makes him angry, and after provoking Ripslinger, he leaves. Sometime thereafter, caster Brent comments on the rise to stardom of the rival renowned as Strut Jetstream, who has become a hero to operational vehicles across the world. Later, Dusty talks to his pals about the upcoming stage of the race and explains that they will cross the Pacific, the same water where his instructor had missions in the past. So the contestant asks Skipper if he has any tips for him, and the plane replies because all he has to do is watch out for storm clouds. In addition, the instructor says he is proud of his apprentice, and before ending the call, his friends reveal that the group will meet Dusty in Mexico as they have gained a lot of money after selling things themed around him. The next day, the contestants assemble at the international airport, and Dusty began to harass Riplinger using his first place finish to annoy him. Tired of his opponent's conduct, the plane instructs his helping Ned and Zed to accomplish something for him, stating that they will be useful in dealing with such challenge. With that, the sixth stage of the race begins, and the competitors will need to traverse the entire ocean towards Mexico. As usual, Dusty flies the route at low altitude, yet suddenly he gets stunned by Riplinger's assistants, who demolish his antenna, forcing him to lose control of his direction. As a result, the competitor flies aimlessly through the region, and within minutes he is intercepted by a pair of military fighter jets who allege that he is entering a restricted zone. Dusty promptly explains that his antenna has been ruined by someone and that his fuel is about to run out. Realizing the plane's position, a pair of fighter aircraft take him to their military ship so they can help him. After landing, all the vehicles welcome Dusty with great gladness, and before fixing him, the fighters take the competitor to the Navy's Wall of Fame. Upon arriving at the spot, the plane discovers that Skipper has only competed in a single assignment in his whole career, and while doing his repairs, he decides should phone his instructor to question him about it. Despite striving to keep Dusty's emphasis on the race, the veteran cannot divert the subject and admits that he has only carried out one task in his life. Before he can get more information about it, the competition is warned that a major storm is approaching the region, thus he must depart immediately if he wants to have a chance to continue the race. Without wasting any time, Dusty meets up with the rest of the ship's crew on the runway, who use their launch mechanism to propel the plane. Meanwhile, at the finish line in Mexico, Ripslinger remarks to press on Dusty's disappearance. But as he walks away from the journalists, he is shocked by Mr. Chu, who scolds him for executing such a nasty act to gain the race. Soon later, Ashani appears and indicates that the plane will never again be the champion it once was. Far away, Dusty tries to soar over the ocean during the enormous storm, but before he can ascend above the clouds to defend himself from the lightning, he ends up being partially impacted by large waves. As a result, the competitor loses control more and more, and suddenly he is facing with a massive wave since he won't have time to go around the wave. Dusty decides to go through it. but in doing therefore, he ends up losing the power of his propellers, causing him to crash into the ocean. The fall caused serious damage to the whole structure of the plane, which begins to dig deeper and deeper. However, before the competition is removed by the water, he is swiftly rescued by one of the rescue crews who take him to Mexico City. After analyzing Dusty's framework, Doy realizes that there is nothing more that can be done and declares that his race is over. Outraged, the aircraft turns to his instructor, and when asked why he lied all this time, Skipper asks everyone to let them alone for a few minutes. The veteran recounts that during his first mission with his reconnaissance squadron, they made a poor decision and headed toward an enemy ship that appeared to be unprepared. What they didn't realize was that right below the clouds, a big naval battle was happening, and as they had no time to retreat, they sought to fight for their lives. This only resulted in all the members being easily destroyed by the enemy ship's anti-aircraft batteries, and Skipper was the only member who could be spared from all that chaos. The great tragedy he experienced made the veteran never want to fly again, and he claims he chose to lie about his tale so he could educate Dusty, knowing that he would not ask for aid if he knew everything. Saddened by everything that is occurring, the plane leaves, and the next morning, Chug and Doy see Dusty standing inside the emergency shed. The mechanic then approaches her companion and says that even when he committed something bad by lying about his story, Skipper was never mistaken about his apprentice, as he has proved to be a talented competitor. In addition, Doy adds that everyone in the world is applauding Dusty's performance, and although he feels considerably better about what he is hearing, he explains that he is not in a condition to continue the race. At the moment, the trio is astonished by Mr. Chu, who offers his friend with a new pair of professional wings while revealing that he could never compete without his fantastic friend also being part in the race. Soon after, all the other contenders show up with numerous gifts for Dusty and thanks for what the crop duster has done for them. Excited, Doy prepares her buddy for the huge final race while Chug examines Ripslinger's performance on his television. The next day, Brent begins the story once again and says that the travel back to the beginning point of the race is about to begin. After arriving at the spot with his fresh look, Dusty sets out to challenge Ripslinger, who is annoyed to see that he is still in the competition. At the same time, the competitors group ready to return to their city, where they will wait for the flights at the finish line. But Skipper maintains he does not want to go with them and informs because after everything he has done, it would be preferable for him to keep out of it. Irritated by Dusty's taunts, Ripsinger meets with his assistants and says it's time to finish up that crop duster once and for all. What he doesn't comprehend is that Skipper is listening in on the chat and becomes outraged when he hears the madman's plans to cheat. At the stadium, the last race begins, and after launch, Dusty starts to reclaim his positions one by one, left Bulldog thrilled to witness his pals come back. As the minutes pass, Dusty comfortably reaches third place, and when they notice their opponent approaching, Ripsinger and his assistants set out to corner him. However, the raid is quickly thwarted by Skipper, who flies in to help his apprentice. At the same time, Dusty dodges one of the mountains, and the veteran shouts for his friend to cope with the assistants while he confronts Ripslinger. Quickly, the contestant executes multiple maneuvers around the rocks, and thanks to this, the couple of aides end up trapped between the ravines. Soon following, Skipper hits Ripslinger with a military tactic, causing the villain to be tossed away. Excited, Dusty praises his instructor, but before they may flee the scene, Skipper is hit by a surprise strike from the cheater, who heading toward the finish line. Despite being destroyed, the veteran shouts for his apprentice to hunt Ripslinger, saying he will be okay. So, Dusty fiercely starts off after his opponent, who utilizes his luxurious thrusters to earn a large advantage. Realizing that the only way to conquer his enemy is to gain altitude, Dusty wastes no time and flies over the clouds, overcoming his dread. Thanks to this, Dusty manages to catch up with Ripliner, and after a quick descent, he employs the secret that Chug detected, performing a spin that allows him to overtake his opponent. Finally, the great wings around the globe race concludes triumphantly, and everyone gathers on the runway to congratulate the winner on his fantastic performance, while Ripsinger is the topic of various jokes from the presenter. Soon later, Skipper arrives in the middle of the runway and thanks his apprentice for everything he has taught him throughout the journey. To celebrate, Chug shouts for everyone to go to a big party, and a few days later, Skipper and Dusty lift off together on the military ship where they are ready to take out multiple missions as a duo from now on. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, leave a comment about your favorite movie, and we will make it next. Thanks for watching.